When we have a problem like the coronavirus, we have a tendency to think we have more time to fix the problem than we do. And the reason for that is biological. Over millions of years, our brains have naturally come to think of problems in a linear way. And so we want to solve them incrementally and in a linear way. But that doesn't really work when a problem is exponentiating. And the example I like to use is a pond with lily pads in it. So let's say there's one lily pad in a pond, and every day the number of lily pads is going to double. So on day 1, it's 1, day 2, it's 2, day 3, it's 4, day 4, it's 8. And it goes like that. And let's say, for example, that on day 36, the pond is going to be completely covered with lily pads. And at that point, it's going to be an ecological disaster. The pond will be starving oxygen, fish will die, and it can't be saved. So when I tell people that event, that disaster is going to occur on day 36, and I ask them on what day is the pond only half full? Well, our linear brains naturally take 36 and say half of 36 is day 18. So on day 18, it doesn't look like a big deal. It's the pond is half full of lily pads. But that's actually incorrect. If it's doubling every day, on day 35, the pond is half full. And then 24 hours later, on day 36, you're in meltdown. So the problem is we think that on day 18, when you're a linear thinker, you think that on day 18, you have 18 days to solve the problem. The fact is you have less than 24 hours to solve the problem because it's doubling every day. So when I say, no, it's half full on day 35, there's peace in the kingdom, it all looks like it's fine, you got plenty of time, and then the next morning you wake up and you're in meltdown. And the problem that we have is that our brains are designed to solve problems in a linear fashion. So you see how we've approached the coronavirus. We say, all right, we'll ask people not to congregate in groups of 50, and then 20, and then 10. And what we're doing is chasing an exponentiating problem. So it's very important for leadership of corporations, nonprofits, of entire nations to be able to take emergencies and immediately separate them into those that are moving at a linear pace and can be managed by incremental mitigation, and those that are exponentiating, and you have to overcorrect. You have to get out in front, because if you don't get out in front, 24 hours is not enough time. In the case of the coronavirus, if we were using my lily pond example, and we were going to have 1 million deaths on day 36, 144 hours earlier, we would only have 16,000 deaths. So we go from 16,000 to 1 million deaths in 144 hours. That is a time-sensitive, high failure rate emergency, and you have to get out ahead of those kinds of problems. And the failure to make that distinction, it just amplifies the crises. Naturally, we want to solve problems in an incremental way. We want to be as least disruptive as possible. But when a problem is exponentiating, such as a pandemic, or such as climate change, or such as a nuclear disaster like Fukushima, you cannot treat those emergencies that are exponentiating in the same way. And that distinction is not really clear in leadership, particularly in government, where what you have is you fundamentally have a majority of leaders have law degrees, right? And there's nothing that exponentiates in the legal system, right? So they're not used to thinking in that way. They're thinking about smaller mitigations along the way, and that's not really the way to manage exponentiation. Now, the scientists understand that, and the mathematicians understand it. But I would like it, to your point, I would like it if leaders would come out and say, this is why we have to overcorrect, because there won't be any time to correct.